Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Married with Reyna's. This is my lovely wife, Reyna, and I'm Jr. And this is another episode of Married with Reyna's. Today, we wanted to talk to you guys about entertainment. So, kind of a part two, and this is how it affects our children. So, we wanted to go ahead and dive in and speak a little more in depth with our experiences, tips, what we've been through, our life experiences, and just how we're navigating life right now with children.
Yep, we have 3 girls and we are definitely navigating it. And we've kind of have some experience. Our oldest is around 9. So I've got a few years under our belt. We've really been fine-tuning things as the years have progressed and really have just armored up to prepare the girls for the world and learn some things along the way. And we're really excited to share those with you.
That's right.
So one of the main things we wanted to point out is obviously we're talking about entertainment. We're kind of relating this back to last episode. If you guys missed it, definitely catch it. It's a really great episode. But today we're going to be talking about sports and entertainment and how it relates with our kids. And if you guys are wondering where we've been, and we took a little bit of a break, and then we ended up getting some horrible virus that we are still recovering from, as I'm sure you can kind of hear in our voices. We've got coughs. It's just been a thing, right?
Yeah, we were hit pretty hard, whatever that was. As you can tell, I don't know if it impacted my voice or not. I guess you can kind of hear it a little bit, but yeah, that's why we had a brief hiatus, but we're back. And we're excited, we're motivated, we're glad to share. And I know I've been excited to share this topic because I love kids and we both love kids. And we have some topics to go over, some good ones here. And we're just going to go ahead and just get right in and kind of banter, and we'll talk and bring up some subjects here that we feel in our hearts that we wanted to bring. So I guess let's get started.
Yeah, so first thing is with kids, right? There's so many things thrown at you, and it can be really easy to get kind of caught up in what society says that our kids should be involved in, what they should be doing. And, you know, like sports, for instance, like, oh, they got to be in soccer, they got to be in basketball, they've got to do volleyball, let's have the girls in dance, let's have them let them learn a musical instrument, they need swimming lessons, and like all the things, it adds up very quickly, and it can become very stressful as a parent when you're seeing all of these things and just wondering, like, what are my kids missing out on? And you can kind of get caught in that, comparison game, which is not healthy at all. But one thing we wanted to share with you is the way that we kind of evaluate and judge and prioritize things for our family is we kind of have a checklist, and it's biblical. But first things first, in anything that we do with our kids, whether it's sports, entertainment, hobbies, all of the above, is how is it going to interfere with their relationship with Jesus? So is that going to eat up our time, right? Take them away from church, serving, being in the Word, having our family time, and sitting down, teaching the girls about the Word of God. Like, is it going to interfere with that?
Yeah, there's so much of the misconception. I don't know if it's more of American culture or Western culture, but since we noticed it, since we started having kids, you see parents have to keep up with the Joneses, or who's playing soccer, who's playing basketball, what are they doing? Are they in karate? Are they in boxing? What instruments are they playing? And we get caught up as parents sometimes in that aspect of what are our kids doing. And so much of it is consumed, so much of our time is consumed by these activities that we've noticed. And it's not a bad thing to keep them occupied.
And even have them in sports. Like, sports aren't bad.
No, it's not bad
None
at
of it's
all.
bad.
It's just what we've tried to implement in our parenting is priorities, like Raina talked about. And so you came up with this list here, which we both pray about and talk about. But she's going to go ahead and start a checklist of what we go through, what we do as parents that we feel everyone should at least look into. But it's something that it's biblical backing, and we love it, and we're practicing it to this day.
Yep. So like I mentioned, number one is like how it's going to interfere with their relationship with Jesus first. Number two is their relationship with family. And I'm talking about like our immediate family. We are a family unit and we are here to raise our children and to build those bonds so that as they grow older, we have that trust and open communication with their children. So if it's going to interfere with that in a negative way, then we definitely need to reevaluate it. The third one is their character, which kind of relates back with family time. But if something is interfering with their character,
Like actually two. Second one was character.
No, it's family and then character after. I just messed with them. And then in regards to like character, we were talking about that earlier with, how kids sometimes maybe they're in a sport and they have a friend, and this friend really like they kind of become like obsessed with this person and they want to emulate their character. And if it's interfering with our children in a way that is turning them away from their family or Jesus, that's another reason like maybe we should reevaluate the choices that we've made. It's a hard decision, but it's an important decision, and kind of we'll talk about it later, like balancing those things, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have tried to implement that. Our season of life has been challenging. Those that know us know that we also we homeschool and we work from home, both of us. So ours looks a little different than your traditional schedule, family schedule, or your dynamic. But that's the only reason why ours works for us. But when we prioritize our time, we have to make sure that the girls are getting spiritually fed, and we also want to do, we want to do like instruments or learning another language. We try to implement that as well. So it's kind of we have to juggle right now with that, but we're still learning, and that's why our situation looks a little different. But I think that's why it's important that we talk about it, because it's what we're seeing now with 3 kids.
And so our next number 4 would be how things interfere with their education, because education is very important as well. And back when I was in school, I didn't really have an issue with like grades or anything like that. But I knew a lot of people that couldn't handle like the load of, hey, I'm going to do these sports, I'm going to be involved in theater, band, all of these things. And then their grades start declining. And your education or your children's education is pretty important. We need to take that very seriously, and also allow our children to have a love for education and learning and exploring that, and definitely being able to really focus on their learning and things that will help them as they grow older and not hinder them. And then the last one, number 5, of course, is sports and hobbies and extracurriculars, basically all of the fun stuff. That's really kind of like the last thing that we have on our priority list. So I really think that it's important for us to kind of, as parents, we're not going to tell you what to do, but following a priority, definitely have Jesus first, family second. That's a biblical principle. And then their character, because we mentioned before that kids are like the one thing that we actually have a chance of taking with us to heaven. So those are really the most important things, and kind of following that outline in every decision that you do. Like we mentioned, there's nothing wrong with sports or hobbies. I was a band nerd. I was in theater. I did choir. Like ballet, so many different things. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But you also have to weigh it as a parent and make sure that all the other things are lining up first.
I think that one of the things that we as parents, Reyna and I both have discovered early on is it kind of goes in hand with the priority aspect of it, where we prioritize our time with our kids. And what I mean by that is the education, but most importantly is Christ centered. And I think that is one of the things that we focused on probably early on, and we've stuck to it. Like the word says, and we read this earlier today. I actually read it earlier today, Matthew, when Jesus talks about serving two masters, Matthew 6:24. I love it because so much of what we put into our time, like we talk about, what we invest in, will really show where our character, where our priorities lie. And he talks about no one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. So you can't serve two masters. You can't do one. You can't be passionate about, sports. You can't be passionate about
Like sports is my life.
career. Anything that takes priority over the Lord, over Jesus, and you devote that time. That's what you're passionate. That's how you identify with. That's how you're identified as. So we have tried to make it known that, hey, we're going to prioritize the Lord. We're going to make sure the kids understand, the Bible. We're going to take time to read the Bible with them. Everything else comes secondary, but we try to make it, a point to be punctual, even when we go to church, being punctual. But everything comes back to us as parents. Everything comes back to us. They are a reflection of us. So everything that we do, literally, everything that we try to do, we try to lead to show them, this is what we do. This is why we do it. And Reyna and I sometimes we'll go to the store and we'll see somebody that might be in need, and we'll try to extend, a helping hand to them. But we don't just do it. Our kids see it, but then we explain to them why we're doing it. So those little things like that, we try to instill into the kids. And I know serving is another big one. Serving, that goes back to prioritizing that time. We try to show them that how important serving is, whether it be in the church or helping other people, serving other people, putting other people first. This is all done by example. That starts with us as parents. It starts with us, and we are very, very big on that.
So kind of going off of that with, so we've really talked a lot about like sports and hobbies and activities, but we also wanted to talk about entertainment, which can be a difficult thing to navigate as parents.
It's a big one.
Yeah, because you want to make sure, like if you want to talk about it, like the sheltering.
Yeah, we entertainment, man, that's a big one. I love it because it's so broad. You can talk about so many things. The first thing that comes to my mind is movies. Movies is a big one. We've been growing pretty well from our first child, which is almost 10 years ago, to the middle, to the third, and just the content that we let our first child watch, it wasn't bad, but we really weren't thorough in not necessarily investigating, but looking at what this was about, the content that it was about.
Right.
And so we've actually done a really good job with being aware of what that movie is about, rather than just saying, hey, go watch the movie, or hey, let's watch this movie when it comes out. We're pretty thorough with that aspect of it.
Yeah, and like the kids there'll be something that they see a trailer for and they really want to watch it. And unfortunately, it has very questionable things in it, things that we don't think our children should be subjected to. So we explain it to them and let them know, hey, this is in this. And I don't think you're old enough now to fully understand, while watching this. and for your young mind to really comprehend what's happening. So we're going to hold off on it for now. When you get a little older, we'll come back and talk about it and watch it together. Like, that's something that we really try to do. And even our kids sometimes will lead us in a movie that they've watched for a while. And then, like, our oldest, she got baptized a little over a year ago. And she recently told us, like, this specific movie that we didn't even think was that bad. It had some, like, just silly, dumb humor in it. And she told us that it was giving her, like, these thoughts that were not good. And it was hurting her spirit, basically. And the Lord was convicting her of it. And you don't want to sit here and be like, it's not that big of a deal. Because in her heart, this is something that she feels convicted on. So we decided to not watch that movie for the time being, and our other sisters don't watch it either. So you kind of have to judge each situation differently and really evaluate it. And it's also one of those things we talked about where we really don't want to, what did you say?
Well,
like
one of the things is overprotecting.
Yeah.
Overprotecting. So we are protecting of them, but overprotecting can also be lead to trouble. We can talk more about that too. Just how you were telling me about as well your experience growing up. Remember that?
So my dad, I really, really appreciated the way that he did this for me. It was really good because of the way that my brain processed things. And my brothers were going to watch things anyways. So the way that my dad would do it is he would put a movie on. I was like rated R, and I would be like 8 years old. And he would put it on and he would pause it and say, okay, what's wrong with this? What does the Bible say about this? And I wouldn't do that with our kids at this age, full transparency. As they get older, we're definitely going to do that. Especially if it's a movie that they're like, I want to watch this, and they're like really set on it. We will be watching it with them and explain, biblical principles through it, because we're raising our children up. We're equipping them for their future. And I think it's a good balance, what my dad did there, of like not over parenting, being like overbearing and, like super protective, but also like controlling the situation.
Yeah, and that side of it's really important. How Reyna was talking about how her father would talk to them about it. The key word is communication. That's what I really want to hit at. And that goes both ways. So my parents did the best they could, and I was the first of 3 kids. And my dad in particular, the leader of the household, he had to grow himself and learn himself as well. And he would even tell you that so much of it was on him because we didn't communicate growing up. We didn't communicate. And again, he'll be the first one to tell you that. So when we were kids, we were just told it was a really Pentecostal background. Nothing against the Pentecostal, but it has a lot of religious ties to it. Mm-hmm. Religiosity. We'll talk about that another time. But everything was don't do this, don't do that. You can't go to the movies and see that. You can't watch this movie because of this, or you can't wear this, you can't say that. But there was never a why behind it or the reasoning behind it. Mm-hmm. And that is so key, because when we're not telling our kids the why behind it, then what that does is it creates curiosity. And that's exactly what happened to me. I wasn't told why I shouldn't watch this. So my cousin, who was about the same age as me, we were maybe under 10, like 8 or 9. His father and mother had divorced when he was young, and he would split his time on the weekends, and he'd go over his grandmother's house, and that's where we would hang out, my grandmother's house. And my uncles were with us, and my cousin. So on Friday nights, we would watch movies. We'd go to Blockbuster. For those of you that don't know, we would go and rent a VHS, and we would pop that VHS in there, and we'd watch it on Friday night.
You're so old.
And I miss those days, Blockbuster. But we'd watch a movie, and it wasn't a kids movie either. They were rated R movies. And we would watch them. And I know that now our daughter, if she were to sees something like that, or if she goes to someone's house and she sees a movie that's inappropriate, like Raina was just saying, she would tell them, "My mom and dad don't allow us to watch this unless
All three of them.
we've talked to unless we've talked to them."
We
So they wouldn't watch it, and they'd come back and tell us, and we love that. Not because we're telling them, "Oh, this is a sin, don't watch that." No, we're communicating to them why we don't watch this and why it's important that that you discuss it with us first. But I didn't do that. There was no communication there, and when those movies came on, we took every opportunity to watch them. I mean, I watched them all. I watched Terminator 2 as a kid. Terminator 2, really? I watched that, and Aliens, and I mean, the little kid at that time should not have watched that movie. But what it did was it created curiosity, and what that does later on is it can kind of snowball too. You watch that and you're like, okay, well that's not so bad. Well, I'll watch this too, and I'll watch this, but it's not communicated. Like I didn't go back and tell my parents, oh, I went and saw this movie. I didn't say anything because I knew that if I didn't say anything, it wouldn't get brought up. So they had no idea that we were watching that. Maybe they did now, but that's how it starts. With the little things like movies, it starts, and then the curiosity comes in, and then it comes into other territories too. You know, you go to school and you see kids doing bad things, or when you're a kid and you see them do bad things, and it starts to develop other things, and you're not communicating back to your parents. So
Yeah.
we've tried to build that communication, which is key word, because if you don't, it creates curiosity.
Yep, exactly. And that kind of goes into our next thing that we're going to talk about too is like electronics and internet access. Our kids do not have an iPad that they have for their own. They do not have internet access.
It's not theirs. It's our iPad, which
Right.
we monitor.
It's old. It's like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 9 years old. But they don't have internet access to it. Like they're not allowed to get on YouTube. They're not allowed to just free surf it. If you don't know, parents, YouTube Kids has adult stuff on there too. So just be very aware. You may think it's kid friendly and it's not. As far as their games, like they will not do internet based games. So what was that one? Roblox?
Oh, Roblox, yeah.
We heard so many things about that, but our kids don't have access to any internet based games where other people can go online and talk to them. They just don't, and they won't for a long time. We will reevaluate that when they're older, but it's a non-negotiable in our home. They're not going to have a laptop. They're not going to have even TV. We've even talked about, like, as far as like TVs, we don't want a TV in their bedroom.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of create a space where that's not an option. And no cell phone. Like, we've talked about how maybe when they're between 14 and 16, allowing them to have a cell phone and kind of each year upgrading it. That way we're able to give them more freedom and allow them to kind of experience things a little bit more, but also in an environment that we can communicate and talk through and explain different things to them.
Yeah. We're not, again, that overprotecting thing, that's why we're talking about this, because we're not going to be completely closed off from that idea. The circumstances change as they get older, but the TV thing is important too. That's huge, because I remember as a kid, I had a TV, and I must have been maybe 10, 11, and I remember getting my first color TV, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was very thankful for it, but what it led to was me going in my room and watching TV and isolating myself rather than, going out and talking with the family. It just created more time away from the family and more to myself watching TV. And
well, then you have access to whatever too,
Yeah,
because
it's
it
free
was
range
like
to everything.
cable. I remember my favorite movie when I just had to look up the date. I was 7 years old watching 10 Things I Hate About You. And that's not a horrible movie, but there's partying, drinking.
but for a kid, it's
Yeah,
something that you
for a 7-year-old. And that was my favorite movie. Like I watched it pretty much every single night. That was like my safe space. Yeah, I don't want that for our kids.
Yeah, it goes back to the Bible, how it talks about making wise choices, and it starts with us as parents. And in Ephesians talks about wise choices. Be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these days. And don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Ephesians 5:15. I like that. There's so many other parts in the Bible that talk about wisdom, but when we make choices, we're doing that for ourselves, but for our family too. When we're leading our kids see everything we do, everything that we do. They mirror us, and yeah, that electronics, man, it's different. It's a different time now too. When I was growing up, I didn't have all the electronics that kids do now. So I mean, the possibilities are endless
Yeah.
just from talking to people online.
So you have to be aware.
Everything,
Yeah.
cell phones, everything. It's just being about. But I think that there's nothing wrong with the kids having cell phones nowadays. It should be monitored and it should be. But I think that it goes back to communication, how well you're communicating to your kids, and
Right.
what they see you doing, and how we're developing them, and what
Right.
we're instilling in them. You know.
And they do have a lot of like great options too. Again, we homeschool, we both work from home, so our kids aren't away from us. They're not in a bunch of activities or anything like that. So we don't really have the need for them to have like a cell phone or anything like that. But they do have some great options now. They have those cell phones that don't have like internet access, kind of like what we grew up on. And then they also have the watches that again, it would only have like texting on it. So there are a lot of options out there for parents that aren't necessarily like just giving them a straight up iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, times are different, man. We weren't monitored with what stuff that we had growing up. So, but now, I mean, cell phones, and I was about to say pagers because I had a pager at one point, but that's just so crazy how times have changed. How times have changed, man, and you've got to be on it. You've got to be on it. You can't be relaxed. You can't be relaxed.
Just having that like foundation with your kids, like the communication, and then also understanding like the emotional maturity of your children, and understanding like the risks associated with things, and weighing that when you make decisions when it comes to social media, electronics, movies, sports, literally everything. You really have to boil it back and weigh it down. Oh, I do want to bring up some statistics too, just for you guys, if you guys are into stats. These are easily searchable. I found a couple online from guardchild.com. They've stated that 71 to 67% of children have seen explicit content between the ages of 6 and 13. Explicit content can mean a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure you know what I'm hinting at. 70% of children between 7 and 18 have accidentally encountered adult film while doing their homework. Just searching random things. I know that happened to me when I was very young. Back then, there were a lot less filters online, but still, it's still easily accessible. I'm sure if you have social media yourself, you come across something that is inappropriate for you as a married person or even a single person. It's out there. It's saturated.
Our last episode, we talked on that. We brushed up on that, the statistics, especially what Reyna was saying, the adult websites. That was crazy. The statistics, how it targets young men. That's so important, man, that we're on it, that we're leading by example. And I think that goes back to, it's good that you brought that up, because it goes back to the not necessarily the sports thing, but the entertainment thing. Those of us that have kids, man, one of the things that we have implemented in our lives, and I know me as well personally, because we have different schedules. So when Reyna goes into work and I get off of work, it's so easy. You've just finished a whole day of work, whether you're in the office or you're at home. It's so easy to be done with work, and then you get off of work and then you go on the couch. Right? We were talking about that. You go on the couch and then you just turn on the TV. So maybe the kids aren't watching bad things on TV, and maybe you're not either. That's fine. You're watching a documentary, whatever. But prioritizing our time with our kids as well is one of the things that I personally am trying to get better at. So if they see their dad or their mom and they're spending all their time watching TV or
On their
whatever it
phone.
is, or well, the TV, and I'll bring that the phone too. But if they see us on the TV, they're gonna remember us as, oh, my parents, oh, they watch this TV all the time, and they're they're prioritizing TV. They're prioritizing. So I want to watch TV. That's what. Or they're playing video games. Oh, that's all they're doing. They're gonna associate that with us. So it starts with us. We try to lead by example, limit that because they're seeing what we're doing. And like Reyna was saying, the phones, when we go out to a restaurant, I actually would like to challenge you guys the next time you go out to a restaurant, when you sit down, look around the room and look at how many people are holding up their phones. It's pretty bad. It's pretty scary. I mean, everywhere we go, it seems like everyone's on their phone. And when they're not sitting down talking, they're on their phone. And it's just almost a part of culture now. And I don't want to say that that's what we've evolved to, but we try to make it a point, man. Our phones get put up. We're at the dinner table, no phones. When we're out in public, no phones. And I try to make it a point.
We have people over.
No phones. People come over, no phones. We talk, no iPads. We use it when we need it to sparingly, but it starts with us. And they see that. They start to understand, hey, my parents aren't using their phones. My parents aren't watching TV all the time. What are we doing? We're being productive. We're trying to be productive, teaching them things, spending time with them. And that all goes back to communication, time, prioritizing our time. If the sports are eating up your time and it's keeping you from showing your kids, taking them to church, volunteering, take a step back on that. If these little tournaments are prioritized and they're taking up all your time, you're not able to communicate to them or building community with other people or a church, then take a step back on that. Nothing wrong with sports, but make sure that the priority is
and same thing with
Jesus,
entertainment.
man.
Yeah, just balancing it and making sure that your priorities are right. Jesus, family, character, education. Sorry, I have to look at my notes. Education, and then the last thing is going to be those sports, hobbies, entertainment. Actually, entertainment underneath sports and hobbies, but I won't go there. I'm a list person. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just I love the Bible. I love the words that it brings to us, the wisdom when we're reading it. I try to bring up verses that are related to this so we can have some backing to this. And I just wanted to bring up another one that Reyna shared with me, and I love it in Deuteronomy. I think Moses talking here. Deuteronomy 6:4, and it just says, he's saying, listen, Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. These words that I'm giving you today are to be in your heart. Repeat them to your children. Talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. So I'm saying, make it a priority. Like make it a priority in the morning, what you do. Make it a priority when you sit down, when you're eating, that they see what we do, that we do put everything Christ-centered first, that they're seeing it through their parents. They're living it out every day. They're seeing it through the parents. It's like we're instilling it into them, and then we're explaining to them why, the why behind it, the why. We're not just telling them from a religious standpoint, hey, do this, what the reason, the why behind it.
And the constant growth.
Yeah, it's important to have that foundation, that we just cannot emphasize it more. Yeah, how important the foundation is, Christ-centered. Yeah, it's much needed.
But that is our thoughts pretty much on sports entertainment with kids and how we are navigating these wild times that we are living in. But yeah, we are so thankful for you guys watching this. I hope it blessed you and inspired you. Maybe you're making some changes. It's not something that we are perfect at. We are constantly working and challenging ourselves every single day, which, you literally have to put on the full armor of God every single day. And as parents, get armored up, keep growing, and keep trying to be better and set a great example for your children, because they watch everything that you do.
Everything. They're sponges. They soak it all up.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, that is going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye.